Okay, guys, sorry for that weird little setup. I'm trying something new today. I'm actually going to be trying to live stream my sketching process when I'm just doing some studies and things like that. And I'm, just hanging out, drawing. If you guys want to come and draw with me, feel free. But lately, I haven't been able to really just sit down and draw in my sketchbook. So I'm trying to figure out a way to do that a bit more. And I think doing the live stream stuff is fun and I enjoy it, but I think it's also a great way to kind of stay more connected with you guys and create content. And now I'm going through my millions of drawing utensils to pick just one that I'm going to probably draw with the entire time. None of these. These aren't going to work. All of these things. You know what? I'll keep one of these markers out. I use these a lot. These pens. And the lighting in here is a little weird for me. I found a solution for my camera issue. So I'm using my actual iPhone up above, which you guys can see right there, linked using a screensaver app, and then using another one which has like a fairly clean interface. It's a free app, so that's why this little NDI logo is there, like a little watermark. And unfortunately, I can't get rid of that, so you guys are gonna have to deal with it for now. But not too big a deal. I think it's pretty good for a free app. I'm not sure the specifics. Once I post this video again, I can look it up and do all that. So I got this stuff here. I'm gonna get something to put all these in. I'm so unprepared every time I stream. Let's see this Vance cup. It's gonna probably make the worst noises, huh? There we go. It's like a coffee mug. Not as harsh, right? Well, yeah, not that bad. And I'm realizing now I don't have my favorite pencils and stuff because they're in a backpack. So let me just grab those real quick and then we're gonna start drawing. I'm actually getting ready to paint some large tattoo flash sheets. So I think I'm going to scroll through Pinterest. I have my iPad on the side here. Unfortunately, you can't see both. There's no way for me to link this with the iPhone hack that I'm doing. But the stream definitely looks a lot better than it has been. So I'm using the normal FaceTime camera on the iMac, and then I'm using my iPhone X or 10 or whatever the hell it is as my webcam. So I'm gonna try this for a few days, and I'm gonna try to do it every day and draw for as long as I feel like drawing. If anyone has any other tips or suggestions that live streams a lot and does live stream to art, definitely let me know. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna grab a pencil. It's right next to me, but it's out of reach. So I'll be right back. Okay, guys, coming back. Sorry about that. Had to grab a bunch of stuff in a backpack, and it took me a little while. Oh, awesome. Yeah, glad you can make it to the stream. I'm just going to be drawing for a while, and then I'm probably going to order dinner, and I'm going to eat probably on the stream because I don't care. So it should be fun. I don't know how bad the latency is on this compared to what it was before. The latency before was like almost a half a minute, and that's pretty bad. So let me know if there's some weird, I draw a line and then like weird audio comes up. I can't really tell from how I'm looking at it right now. I'm just going to pull up one more thing real quick just so I can see what's going on YouTube. And it just makes it a little bit easier for me to know what's happening. I'm actually trying to do Twitch tomorrow for the first time. So I don't know if that's going to work. I'm just trying to get it all figured out now. It just takes a little while to get it all, sorted out. Okay. And let me just put this off to the side. I still don't have it all figured out. I have a single monitor setup, so this is not like the most productive thing just yet, but do Twitch tomorrow for the first time. Okay, there we go. So that's working. All right. So now I can see it. There is quite a bit of latency on the stream here for me. It's still a few minutes. Not too big a deal. Let's see. Yeah, I can see it in the Streamlabs. I'm just going to follow the Streamlabs stuff and then keep the YouTube thing closed. And I'll follow the chat that way. So this is a brand new sketchbook and haven't drawn anything in it yet. And typically I'll usually look for something more specific to put on the first page other than like my info. But we'll do a little sketch here. I'm going to actually grab a reference once my iPad loads because the Wi-Fi here is pretty bad. Come on. Let's see. Turn off that. Okay. Should be a little bit better now that I got that going on. If it doesn't work, then I'll pull up another tab. All right, it's taking forever. I'll just pull up a web tab. All right, slightly smaller screen. I definitely need to get like a dual monitor setup. I understand now why people have the craziest setups when they're working on stuff. It makes it so much easier. Might even be able to just open it up in Streamlabs already on the iPad. Let me see if that works. Let's see. Nope. All right. That's not working either. Yeah, so usually I'll start with just a really rough sketch on the first few pages and not really think too much about it. Yeah, so I'm gonna get started. Let's see. I'll do like a weird, I think I'll do like a weird wolf head in the first page. And usually I like put my personal info in this little section down here, which you can't really see because it's blocked. But yeah, there's like a little name tag thing. This is one of the handbook sketchbooks. It's not the best, not the worst, but I've definitely used slightly better ones for sure. But yeah, I'm going to draw like a wolf head. I think like maybe some tattoo flash styled stuff would be nice on here because that's what I'm going to be warming up to do. And I don't take the first couple sketches super seriously. I just kind of draw and let it be. If you watch the last video I posted yesterday, like the sketchbook tour stuff, all my sketchbooks are pretty rough. So let me just start with just anything. You know what? Let's do, let's do like a scorpion. I'll do like a little scorpion on the front here. If that pencil noise gets really annoying too, I'll have to figure out a solution. So this is a really symmetrical subject matter to draw, and it's actually, they're pretty easy to draw. One of the things you want to kind of get down when you're drawing a scorpion is like a decent S curve that's stretched out a little bit. At least that's how I approach them every time I draw them. Is I'll usually kind of figure out the direction I want it to go. And it doesn't have to be like a perfect S curve. It can just be a very slight one that's slightly off on the top and on the bottom. And it looks like it's a little hard for you guys to see some of this. So I'm going to try to draw a little bit darker. I always draw in red on a sketch. The Sketchbook brand, this is the handbook travel log. I'll type it actually in there because it's spelled very strange. And let me sign back in to the chat. It is a very strange way to spell it. So it's the, let's see, trav-e-log. And that's the name of the sketchbook. And this is like one of the larger sizes. They're expensive for sure, but the paper quality is just unbelievable. So that's what I typically use. I'll usually use those. And yeah, it's like my go-to. But there's a bunch of options out there. You don't need to use this one. I go back and forth from Sketchbook brand to Sketchbook brand. I just like this one. One of my friends turned me on to these, and now I'm addicted to them. I can't stop using them. They're so nice. They're really easy to use, and yeah, it's great. But it's got a slight tooth to it, and the paper is off-white. You can't really tell because of the studio setup right now with the lighting. So my bedroom is small, and it's got a bunch of gross brown trim and white walls, so using these little lights here and turning the overhead light off and all that setup makes it look a lot nicer. It's all smoke and mirrors here at the Wolf Pit studio. All right, so back to the drawing. Now, because I have the S curve, the body is typically a lot straighter. It's a lot more structured. So what you can do is you can actually kind of change the line a little bit to match that. So we're just going to use that S curve as a general reference of how we want the tail to flow and sort of give it a good composition. And then we're going to go from there, and we're going to actually kind of straighten the body out and angle it with a straight point right here on the top. Now, there's a few ways you can draw scorpions in the traditional tattoo flash style. They have a lot of plate structure on their body, and that kind of gives them a really menacing look in tattoo flash designs, to having those sharp and then those rounded edges. So to make it more aggressive, you can actually make them pointy, or to make it a little bit more of a neutral and not as aggressive, you can get rid of the point and then do more of a rounded corner, which I prefer the look of personally. And then I'll usually add little like spiky details in the pincers and claws and stuff. And I'm not using a real reference image of a scorpion because I want this to still look like some flash. So that's why I'm doing that. And you want to start to taper it down. So I'm actually going to thicken this side up and this side up and so on. And then you start to taper down how it would actually form in the body. And then eventually you get down to having just one of these, and then the tail starts, and then you can do the tail in a couple different ways, where you either have a similar shape all the way down on the tail, or you can do something where you have two really like strong structured lines going all the way. So like this is more of a parallel line over here, and that you just kind of match this line over here. Not parallel line, but you know what I mean. You want to have a consistent line, and then you just fill it out with the similar sizes and shapes of the body that you're using in the smaller sections. It doesn't have to be perfect on these rough sketches at first, because normally I'll take my rough sketches and I'll put tracing paper on it and fine tune it a lot more. And then on the end of the tail, where we have the actual spike or thorn, or I don't know what they would technically, the stinger, right? The barb, I think, is the correct term. you want to start drawing that with an S curve as well. And that kind of matches the other line. At least for me, this is kind of how I generally approach really clunky traditional tattoo stuff. I don't do too much neo traditional designs, and that's just personal preference. So this tail's really close to the body, which is not the best if I want to put the legs there. But what you can do is you can actually adjust the drawing and then move the tail down and then either make the body bigger. There's a few things you can do. I messed up here. I didn't think about legs. I was like so excited about the body and the tail. So that's okay. We're just gonna wing it and kind of go for it. So yeah, the two front arms have a very different look than the rest of it. So I'm going to just draw some guidelines and then we'll go from there. I think we're going to have this thing holding something. I don't know what it should be holding. So scorpions are interesting because they typically have 8 legs. They're like a spider, and then they got the 2 claws in the front on most of the traditional designs. If you look at a more accurate image of a scorpion, though, you typically only see 6 legs because the 2 supporting it, when you look at, on a top view of a scorpion, they're a little bit harder to see. They're like usually underneath these arms down here, but we're going to keep it a little bit more close to an anatomically correct looking scorpion. So the arms and the way that the legs are is the angle upward. There's like a little triangular point. So we can make that in the design in a couple ways. We can either follow that shape, but because this is a top-down view of a scorpion, I think we're going to stick with, we're going to follow this direction instead, because this will look really weird. It'll make it look like the scorpion's back is arched up, and from a top view, it's just a bad look. So I draw little circle guides on the abdomen. Now there's normally the legs fit into these little grooves on an actual scorpion. They kind of like fit underneath the plating really well in the design, and you can actually have the arms up here higher on near the head, which I might do instead. Knocked out for that. But all my sketches, as you can tell, they're super rough. They're not very fine-tuned, and I don't treat these things like they're super important special objects. I say that all the time. The sketchbook is a place to dump all your ideas down, or to take notes and studies of specific details on whatever the subject is you're trying to learn. And I have nothing against the people that can render beautiful, finished looking quality work in a sketchbook. It's absolutely amazing. I can't do that. It makes my sketchbook less useful to me when I do that, or I try to do that, because I've never been able to do that. So I don't have like super pretty sketchbook tours and stuff when I do the videos. I just kind of feel weird sharing the stuff, but I'll show you people kind of my process. And because I come from a bit of like a graphic design background to go along with my illustration, it's always about constantly creating new versions of everything until it's perfect. So that's kind of how I am designing this right now. So the Scorpion's looking a little weird. It's mainly because of the legs, and we're making it a bit clunkier. But these are just the guides for the legs. Now they actually have a weird kind of foot. So their foot or their leg and like the joints of their leg usually have like a flat area, and it kind of tapers up. And then there's like another flat area, and then like something that kind of tapers down. That's how their legs actually look. But we're going to make this a bit more traditional, so I'm just going to draw some shapes, and we're going to draw them to points, which they don't really have, but we'll make it look like they have the points. Again, it adds to that, like making the design more aggressive concept. And I'm just kind of doing a flange out on the leg on that last little section. And that gives the illusion of there being a bit more of a curve there with simple kind of lines. And this leg here I don't like. I'm going to actually bring it back. And I don't typically work with an eraser. I'm going to have to find one. I think there's an eraser on this pencil. All right. I typically just sketch like this. Then if I don't like it, I'll grab a different color pen or pencil and I'll sketch over that line to fix it. And that's like just from, being a tattoo apprentice for a while. You just constantly used to doing different revisions when you draw, and that's what I would do. I wouldn't erase because then I get lost when I erase, if that makes any sense. Because I can see the mistake, so I know what not to do again. All right. Yeah, so that's kind of it. It's pretty basic. On the first page, I'll do something like that, and then I'll correct it as I do the final ink line work. So there's nothing in the pincers up here. I'm going to probably put something in there. I don't know what. Maybe, you know what I'll do? Do something funny in there. Yeah, I think I'll do like a, I don't know, like a taco or like, what do I want to put in that? Could do like a crescent moon. That'd be kind of cool, actually. Not really funny. The frame. Okay, just had to grab some circle templates. So I use these a lot for just doing fast, repetitive shapes and whatnot. And I think we're going to do like a little crescent moon design. And we'll have the peak of the circle towards the bottom, so he has something to grab onto. That's not the best placement. Let's bring it down a little bit more so it's in both. Do the peak of the circle up here. Let's make it smaller so it looks really kind of pointy. All right, it's too small. It's a little bit larger. The main goal is to kind of layer the two circles on top of each other to create that crescent moon, and it's a bit of trial and error till you find the size that you like. A general rule of thumb is that you're supposed to go down the next whole size, like off to the next side, if that makes any sense. Like, see, I use this one as the main body. I should have used this one to start, but just messing around. So there's a lot of mess in there. So this line we're going to keep. And this is where an eraser would be helpful if there's a lot of lines that get confusing. All right, so now we have like our main shape, and then switching to a slightly darker Color, I'm just going to use black because it's probably hard for you guys to see everything on the screen as it is. Sorry about that. I think that's just figuring out the light exposure of what I should be using in the future. Now with designs like this that are kind of more custom and they have some traditional aspects to them, it's always good to kind of plan and figure out what the design could mean. So a lot of different symbols have completely different meanings in other like cultures and stuff, so you want to be cautious of that, or you're not accidentally making something offensive. Crescent moon is found in like a lot of different cultures, and it's used a lot as a tattoo motif to kind of fill in design space. And that's all I'm doing here with this. This has literally zero meaning. There's no meaning behind this design other than I want something on this front page. All right, so that doesn't look too bad. Pretty happy with the general layout. Normally I wouldn't start inking yet, but I think I'm going to start inking right now. Going to use a really thick marker for this. This is a 1.5, not sure the brand, some form of micron, but it's not the Micron brand. I always forget the name of this one. This is a Faber Castell 1.5. So this is definitely a nice one to ink with because you get that nice thick bold line right off the bat. This paper has a little bit of edge bleed, but I kind of like the look of it. And again, this is a sketchbook. This isn't like a finalized piece. And I'm all about edge bleed. I've been doing tattoo flash work and like tattoo flash design for, God, I don't know, kind of forever actually. I don't tattoo. I started an apprenticeship years ago, and a few weeks into it, I actually had to have a large major reconstructive surgery on one of my ankles from a skateboard accident, and it just didn't line up for me. Unfortunately, I had to give up my apprenticeship because I had to leave my apartment, have this surgery, and after the surgery they had filled the position and found a new apprentice. I live in Boston, which is a pretty hard city to get an apprenticeship in the first place. It's very competitive. And I just kind of kept doing tattoo style illustration while I was bedridden. And that's why actually a lot of my older stuff has that China marker look to it, because I couldn't use ink in the bed. So I had to use like a marker and something that wasn't going to make a mess everywhere and spill over the bed. So I was using China markers because I can get the whip shaded effect I was looking for with the heavier black tat flash in a long time, and that's actually why I've been drawing a lot more tattoo flash styled stuff lately. And I'll use it for like skateboard graphics and things like that all the time. A lot of people like that look and they'll ask for that from me. Or I'll use more of like a graphic design approach, and it has some tattoo flash looking elements to it, but it's not actually tattoo flash. And this right here as well, this has like a tattoo flash base, but it's going to probably end up more like a traditional inspired illustration, but not actually be like tattooable in that sense. And when I'm inking the sketchbook, I ink pretty rough, again, just to kind of see how things feel and achieve different line weights, which you really wouldn't do in a traditional flash design. It would be a consistent solid line weight all the way around. But I do like nice bold work. So that's what I'm just trying to achieve here. This is also the cover page, so that's why it's making that noise. When I busted my ankle, something stupid actually. It was an accumulation of a bunch of different injuries that lined up and led to a very bad one. So I actually already had fractures in my ankle at the time, and basically I kept skating. I had the opportunity to possibly have a career with a company, and they kind of dangled it in front of my face, and I was really determined to get out of the living situation I was in. I didn't have a lot of money, so it was kind of the dream of every kid, and I was trying stuff I probably shouldn't have been trying. And it just over time, a lot of small injuries led up to a large one where my whole foot basically turned around. And I think I was like skating a mini ramp on that one, and my foot, I just like went to bail, and my foot just was so destroyed, and my ankle was so messed up. My whole foot basically like turned around, and I tore a bunch of ligaments and whatnot in there. So I had to get all those removed in the surgery. And yeah, it's definitely something that still kind of haunts me quite a bit. I miss skateboarding at the level I used to be, but I don't think I'd have as much fun just being able to like enjoy skateboarding without anything attached to it. It's just nice to be able to go out and skate with your friends and stuff. And I barely get to skate now as it is, just obviously with what's going on in the world, but also in general. Like it makes it very difficult being like a freelance designer and trying to run your own brand and whatnot, and still find time to do the things you like to do. It sucks. I want to start skating more again and kind of get back in shape and just enjoy it, not have to worry about trying to get sponsors and this and that. And because it's not about that for me. Like it really never was. It was just an opportunity I thought I would have had. So I just try to skate for fun now. All right, so I'm going to add some shadows on this moon, like a little drop shadow. And I'm just kind of winging it. I have no real idea with this yet, so I'm just drawing whatever. Draw these little spikes on here. And then on the body itself, I need to add something to give it a bit more dimension. So I think I'm going to actually start filling those areas in with some heavier black. This is pretty common in designs. There's a few ways to go about it, where you can either do little circles or you can do little half heart shapes. So I might just stick with the classic design and maybe do a lighter center to kind of give the head some shape to it, and then bring those lines down over like this, where they butt up against each other. And then we're going to fill it in pretty heavy black, and then I'll grab a dark colored pencil, usually is what I'll do for these areas, and then I'll kind of shade those out with the pencil or like the China marker. And this just gives me like sort of a general idea of where I would do some spit shading on the design, but you can do whatever you want for that. So whatever your personal aesthetic is when it comes to Flash, I always tell people to stick with it. If that's what you're trying to get into, you'll find out quickly the things that you like and the things that you don't like, and just go from there and try to just keep it original and mix and match things. That's really what traditional is. It's just it's the collage of tattooing, if you will, in my opinion, when you see modernized tattoo Flash or like takes on traditional. It's just people taking things from the past and trying to make it their own. All right, so this is taking a while to fill as well. I'm going to switch to an inking brush, and I usually warm up a little bit with like a separate piece of paper on more finalized illustrations, but this is a sketchbook, so it's fine. Just get a few strokes down. Every brush pen has a slightly different springiness to it, so it's just getting used to it and knowing what it can handle and whatnot. So I'm just going to use this to fill in some areas a little faster. And I'm also like back a little bit, so it's hard for me to see my sketchbook, if that makes any sense. So I gotta be like a little cautious when I take strokes, because I can't really see it at the same angle while on camera. I do plan to switch over eventually to my drafting table, and try to do a shoot that way, but I don't have the proper gear yet to film something like that live. And all I'm doing is I'm just making really simple shapes with this brush pen. Again, doesn't need to be perfect. This is just a sketch, so. Kind of made the tail a little too wonky on there. Just trying stuff out. And then I'm going to have the light source on the legs coming from the moon. So anything that would touch light, or at least what I think would be touching light, has the highlight there. And then everything else would be in black. So like a little line of black there. And that's one way you can kind of indicate the illusion of shadows with just line weight for more traditional styled heavy black tattoos, or what people call black work. Because the feet are close to the ground, the tops would be showing, so that's where your light source would hit that in a slightly more realistic style. So all the light would be on hitting the top peaks of the leg. Have it a little different on this style, but that's okay. And then the stinger would have like a area of highlight. I'm going to fill it in black, and then I'm going to take a gel pen once this dries, and then I'll do like a little highlight there. So give that a second to dry, and then I'll kind of get more into just general sketching. For the general sketching, I don't know how much I'm going to talk. I'll answer questions as I see them, but I'm just going to sketch to warm up. This was like a little fast warm up to get things flowing. My carpal tunnel's been acting up a little bit the last couple of days, so I haven't been doing digital stuff. I'm just trying to get back into doing some traditional sketching. All right, so we got a scorpion down. It's another classic design I can do quick with real rough. Trying to think. I'm trying to get inspired right now. I guess I always can do skulls no matter what. I can draw skulls like crazy. I don't need to draw any more skulls, but I will. So I don't know, maybe I'll start with like a rose or something. Roses are always like a fun one for me. All right. Sorry. I yelled out last time I was yawning so much. All right, we're going to do like a little rose. We're going to do it. See, that's what happens if you don't let the ink dry. It's also like the left-handed curse, right? You just, everything, if you can see, ink on everything. And now the whole drawing is smudged and ruined. But that's fun. That's all right. It's just a sketchbook. I normally also draw with black gloves. If you've seen my other videos, you know that I always have those black gloves on. That's one of the reasons why, because I smudge everything. But I'll just draw with my hand, supported by my other hand, for a few minutes while that dries. There's a ton of ways that you can draw a traditional looking rose. I usually do this sort of weird petal structure where it looks more like a peony than it does a rose. And I just kind of make it up. Yeah, left-hand curse for real. That's fine though. Like I said, this is just the sketchbook where I just kind of dump ideas or like warm-ups before I actually paint. I do want to try to do a live flash painting once I've warmed up and gotten back into it, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And then also for Twitch tomorrow, when I try to do the Twitch stream, if I can figure it out, I might have like a bit more of a theme, but it'll be my first one. Thanks, dude. If you guys don't follow Space Case, go follow Space Case. That's Austin right down there. Go follow him and subscribe to his stuff. He's rad. Yeah, so just kind of like warming up, getting all the sketches going down. I actually did like a pretty rad scorpion graphic a couple months ago that's supposed to be on some skateboards, but I gotta wait for them to release it before I share it. But I am considering maybe doing a whole video on designing a skateboard graphic from start to finish. So from like my initial sketch on what I would do, how I go about drawing the lines. I talk with my hands, sorry. I'm realizing how weird that looks on the screen. But yeah, so like I'll sketch it out and then I'll usually draw it to scale or a portion of scale. So I'll take a piece of paper or like Bristol board once I'm ready to do the final line work, if it's not going to be like a watercolored illustration, and I'll actually draw it on that first, and then I'll scan it or take a photo of it and then manipulate it in Photoshop. Those are like some of the methods. Or I'll actually start completely digital and I'll just do a digital sketch on the iPad, send it to my computer, and then I'll digitally ink it so it's easier to produce for different types of graphics. Sticker design, that's usually all I do for that, as I use like a vector-based software for that. But I try to get everything when I'm designing for clients for print design. I try to do everything in vector now. It's just out of habit working for a few brands. It makes it a lot easier. All right, there's the rose. I want to see the deck series. Let me know when the deck series is out. I'll binge watch all your videos in a row if you do the deck series. And who cares if they ever get made? I have so many board graphics that'll never be made, so I make them myself. It's way more fun anyway. And then usually what ends up happening, someone sees it and they're like, "What brand is this?" And I'm like, it's not a brand. It's just a graphic I made." And then like they'll have a small skateboard company. They're like, "We want this made. That looks similar." That's actually how I got some of my first big skateboard graphic jobs. Like my Expedition 1 graphic was actually like the rose one. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but I did that one traditionally, and I was so excited because Rob Welsh actually found me on Instagram during one of the contests they were running and kind of like picked it. This was just before he left the team or whatever that drama was. I'm not sure what it was, but he left, and then I actually ended up having to do a graphic. Like they kept the graphic and they had to change the name, so I had to put Kenny Hoyle on there, which is still rad because Kenny Hoyle's dope. But I really wanted to get a Rob Welsh graphic, and I'm still bummed to this day that I don't have a Rob Welsh graphic. But one day, maybe, we'll see. That would be sick to do. That one, and then like I had a few other people I wanted to kind of like do. Ryan Golan at the time was on Expedition, and I really wanted to do one of his board graphics, being from Boston, but we'll see. Over to dry, and I'm just going to make a mess. So I'll switch back to that 1.5 pen, wherever I threw that. There it is. All right, so I'll usually turn my sketchbook a lot, but I don't want to disorient anyone on camera right now. So I'll just push it up a little bit and see if I can get the same effect. And just use my wrist to support and pull the lines how I would pull the lines normally. And when you're doing tattoo flash style stuff, it's really good to have a very consistent stroke. You don't want to have really sketchy lines, especially if you're using watercolor paper with a texture on it. You want to take your time when pulling the lines, and that actually can be the hardest part for a lot of people starting out. And sorry if that pen noise is terrible. I should hit him up. I'd be so down to do graphics for him. I like kind of put a lot of the skate stuff on the back burner for a little while I was at Converse, because I was working in the women's department, so I didn't like really think of skateboard graphics the whole time I was doing it. But yeah, man, that's on the list for sure. I want to do a graphic for him. Westgate, I would love to do a Westgate graphic. Just any of those guys would be sick. And also, if I got to do a Westgate graphic now while he's on Element, that would be the ultimate, because Element used to get a lot of shit, but they shouldn't. They're amazing. They're such a like solid brand, and they're also like an East Coast like origin brand, so it's really nice to see brands like that were able to grow. And everyone like talks crap about Bam for sure, but that's totally whack, because the dude's always been super consistent. Like, yeah, he made some money in skateboarding, and people were upset about it, and I don't think they should be. But those are like any of the East Coast dudes would be sick to do graphics for, from like back in the earlier 2000s era. From when I was skating, I would love to do way more skateboard graphics for them. And Anthony Shetler, I've talked to him a few times about it because he knows some friends of mine, but it's just always been kind of like back and forth, and like he kind of knows what he wants to do with All I Need. So maybe it'll line up one day and I'll be able to do it for him. Yeah, dude, Future Nature is sick. I grew up a lot with the a lot of the KO Corp stuff. Yeah, I think Element's rad, and I think the only reason I leaned more towards KO Corp stuff growing up is the first shop I was sponsored by. We were sponsored by KO Corp. That was like our main rep. So everything that I was skating from when I was like 15, or I don't even remember the first how old I was when I had the shop sponsor, but I think I was like 15 or 16 years old, maybe even younger, and everything was KO. So all I skated was like Organica and like Expedition, and like DGK would come in, or what, like all those brands. And then eventually we switched over to Deluxe as our main source for boards at that shop. So then I only skated Deluxe stuff from then on out. But I kept skating indies though. I used to skate Thunders, and then I snapped like 2 or 3 pairs of Thunders pretty quickly. Like I got this flat bar, and I was trying to learn like 50/50s and just get them on lock. And I skated it so much that I actually had like flat bar marks in the Thunders. And then I just like broke them on the hanger all the time. So then I switched to indies because I had that like really fat top part, and I can't go back now. Nothing skates, in my opinion. I know people love Thunder. I still think Thunders are great. I just, at that point in my life, I was not nice to the things that I skated. I would break so many trucks all the time, and I was a much smaller kid back then. I was like 100 pounds, so a lot heavier now. I can't even imagine how often I'd be breaking Thunders if I could skate at even remotely close to a level I used to skate. But it would be sick to maybe try another pair in the future. Give them a shot. All right, let's see. I think I'll do like a dagger over here. This Warmint page is going to look like a little tiny sheet in itself. And the sheets I'm getting ready to do are actually pretty big. They're like 20 by 30 inches. So they're really big sheets. And I really want to try to do a more polished and finished piece. And those usually take me a long time. So I don't know if I'll be able to do a live video for those ones, just because they'll take a couple hours sometimes, or even a few days to finish painting them. They're so big. And the shading process with ink is a lot slower than most people realize. So it does take a long time to do a good sheet. And I also have my my Nike Air Max Day illustration that I did finish, and I'm looking for a time to post a better photo of it. But because Air Max Day has been canceled because of the virus, or was canceled because of the virus, I just have it sitting and I have no idea what to do with it now. So I got to figure out if I can repurpose it for something else, or if I have to keep it kind of as an Air Max thing. I mean, it's like a Reaper holding two Nike shoes, so I don't know what else I could really repurpose it for yet. And I always like mess up the hilt when drawing these like really fast daggers that should be simple. I don't know why I always just like over accentuate the detail of the hilt, and it just makes them look weird. Simple is usually the best when it comes to these types of graphics. There we go, nice and clunky. Looks like a shitty jail tat. I like it. We'll draw one side all black, and then we'll cut it back with a marker. All right, not too bad. And then I'll usually take like a gel pen when I want to do highlights on an area, when I'm just doing like a light sketch, or if I'm using smooth paper, I use these a lot. But these gel pens are one of my favorites. Just gotta like get the gel going. And you can kind of see on there, you might be able to see on camera, but these are like solid black, and it cuts that back like really well. It's a little, maybe it's hard to see on there, but I'll use these, or I'll actually get a brush and use like white ink on here, but this isn't that serious. And I just need like a little white highlight. Sorry if these pen noises are the worst. All right, yeah, so I'll start filling it in. I'll let it dry a little bit and I'll go back. This ink in this brush pen seems to act a little weird with this gel pen brand, so usually I have to like let it really dry for a long time, or it'll just pull up the black ink inside the gel pen. And then I got a Sig gray gel pen, and then I'll go to with one of my favorite markers. If I'm going to do like little fast color studies of something, I'll usually use like these Sharpie oil based that are terrible for most things except for making weird, giant, consistent, flat red shapes. So that's why I like these a lot. They are glossy looking, but if you take your time, you can get a really nice, smooth, consistent look. The water-based paint markers that, like by Molotow and Posca's is okay, but in this sketchbook, it rips the paper up. And for some reason, these oil-based ones, I can go super hard and they're fine. Usually, yeah, if I'm doing a project for a client, I'll take a picture of whatever it is, or if I'm now sketching in the iPad, now that I have the iPad, I'll take the photo of the sketch on the iPad and do a tightened sketch on the iPad digitally in Procreate, and then I'll send that over to Illustrator if I need to do a vector. But you can get professional print quality work out of Procreate right now. It's kind of insane. It's definitely an investment for sure. And I put it off. It was either get a laptop or get an iPad. And then with everything with COVID-19 happening, I got the iPad because I could draw on it. And it was like an all-in-one solution for me because I have the desktop computer that I do all my main like professional client work on. So for me, it was the move. I was already considering getting the laptop. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get the iPad. And I wish I got an iPad years ago because it's so much easier than other things I've used in the past. I actually like it more than my Cintiq. I have like a smaller Cintiq Pro, but the iPad to me is just way more intuitive. I'm waiting for Photoshop to catch up and Illustrator to catch up for iPad. And once they do that, once they have like a full version of those, I probably won't even use the Cintiq ever again. And then I have a Bela Lugosi time lapse I'm working on right now to get out, and then a few other collabs with some other artists that I gotta get finished up, but I'll get to it. Oh man, I haven't even used this marker yet. All right, that'll take too long to juice up. One sec. Oh, blue light's gone. All right, now it's back. Okay, so yeah, this is like a little plastic bin I keep a bunch of random paint markers in. The Posca brand is my favorite, and then the Sharpie, like the really cheap Sharpies, like the oil-based ones, I love those. I think those are really nice markers. And then I use like alcohol ones when I'm sketching as well to get colors down. Yeah, I'd love to do like a little thing on that showing my t-shirt process. I actually have some Converse designs, which I'm not sure if they're using, but if they do use them, I might actually show you guys the files and how I came to the conclusion from the brief that I got, which I think would be kind of insightful. I haven't really seen much like that on YouTube before or anything, mainly because it's like I'm a contracted person, so like I'm okay with that. Like I'm not working for them now. But like if I were working for them, I wouldn't show any of that. But it's not like secret information anymore if they release it. So if they release any of those designs, I'd be more than happy to show people how I kind of used assets that they had and then my own design stuff to make some t-shirt graphics. I do have some of the original files from some of the shoes that recently were released, which I've been posting on Instagram. So if you're not following me there, it's the same thing. It's just Wolf Pits. But I have a few other designs I need to post that have been released. I have no idea what they're releasing. They're a little bit unorganized, when it comes to contracted people. When you work for them, they're great. Like when you're a full-time employee. But being a contracted person, it's really hard because you're only supposed to have access to certain things, and it's just it's a whole thing. I'll talk about it maybe more in like a future video, but I would love to show the whole process of how I go from sketch to finish. But I think I need to do that in like a video itself, not a live stream. But if you have questions about screen printing, I'm pretty well versed in all that, and I know it pretty well. All right, and usually what I'll do, like, I'll also do some warm-up letters on a page. I'll pick a word or I'll see something, and I'll just write whatever those letters are. So I'm seeing in front of me on the screen, it says Side of History. So I'm going to use that series of words to warm up, and I'll just keep layering stuff on until I'm ready to go on the next one. All right. Start with the S. This is just a normal alcohol-based marker. This is a Prismacolor one, but you can, learn graffiti hand styles any way you want with any marker you want. This is just the one that I usually go to. I go to these, and then the AP markers are my favorite, but this is just what I grabbed out of the box. This is one of the other styles as well, the Pantone marker. These have a sharper chisel, and they don't flare the same way a real marker I would use in the street does. So they're too firm, but these old chunky Prisma marker, the tip starts to blunt down how like an actual marker you'd use on the street does. So that's why I like these. You get like a similar feeling. It doesn't like whip ink out like a K71 does, but pretty solid right here. And I don't plan these hand styles out. These are just off like, in my head, what's in the arsenal. But I always like practicing letters as well to warm up and like get my wrist going. Especially I have really bad carpal tunnel syndrome in both my wrists. So that's just from years of using a really bad desk and not proper posture and ergonomics and all that. Working on it. Trying to get more adult. But definitely something to think about if you're, an illustrator and you're working a lot with your hands. Ergonomics and stuff are super important. Carpal tunnel syndrome sucks. All right, and this little plate down here is where I usually put my name, but I'm just going to go over it, and then if I need to put a contact info, I'll put it over it with another color or something. All right, so Side of History was the word or phrase. Look up some of those little like carpal tunnel stretches. So if you like place your fingers against the wall, I don't know how to like illustrate it on camera, but you put your fingers against the wall and then you pull your thumb back, not super forcefully, but like hard enough to make it feel stretched. That helps a lot. And then those like silicone eggs that you squeeze, or like the weird material ones, that helps me a lot. At least I get like pain all the way up into my forearm, and then like on my ring finger downward, like all the way up almost to my elbow on both my wrists when it starts acting up. And those help so much for me. Just having those like little tiny stretches I can do make a huge difference when I have to get work done. But I am looking to get more like ergonomical stuff, because I use like an old solid core door from an old apartment that's now my desktop. Like that's actually like all my stuff sits on that. I'll do like a studio tour video because I'm looking to change everything up. But yeah, it's terrible. It like sags in the middle. It's all sorts of dumb. Don't do that. Get a real desk. All right. And these letters aren't the best. They don't look the greatest, but it's a little warm up. Or sometimes I'll do like a full couple pages of alphabets, and I'll use different types of drawing tools for that. And I'll usually do a few alphabets because I do a lot of lettering art for clients as well. So that's just a warm up. But when I'm doing more lettering art, I structure it out. Yeah, it's no joke. The carpal tunnel thing. Like I used to I'm like, oh yeah, like you're old when you have carpal tunnel. Now I feel old because I have carpal tunnel. So it definitely can ruin your day. All right, so that page is like pretty good and warmed up. I feel pretty warmed up to sketch. So I'm just gonna grab like another piece of paper. And I usually just use like really cheap printer paper. And I'll place the printer paper down, and then I'll draw on the other side just so I can see a little bit more. Just a little bit easier. Ugh, sorry, keep yawning. And let me just pull up another reference here. It's just a little bit easier to do that on the screen. And I'm using my phone and as like my webcam, so I gotta like pull up these messages somehow. Someone keeps texting me. I keep seeing alerts, but I can't pull it up on my screen. All right, it's not a big. I'll answer him after. It's fine. Not a big deal. Yeah, I'm also hoping like to do the Twitch thing because I guess you can listen to music. Thing, like I swear a lot. I'm trying not to do that. I guess that's like a bad thing to do in your videos if you ever want to get monetized. And I'm so screwed at at the moment because like I can't stop swearing when I'm doing videos or like when I'm just in general I swear a lot. It's bad. It's like a Boston thing. From Boston, it's just like you don't realize you're swearing and like swearing is a bad thing to do in the public space. It's how it is. But yeah, I'm just pulling up some of their images here real quick, and let's see. I don't know what to do. Let's see. I think, yeah. All right. So yeah, if you guys have suggestions of stuff you want me to draw, that'd be helpful. Because normally I just go through like my Pinterest stuff. You know, I got some pretty bad music taste, but yeah, surf punk does rip. I listen to a lot of weird, like older hardcore stuff. Again, like grew up in Boston during a good hardcore era time. All your streams get demonetized on YouTube? Yeah, I can see that doesn't sit well with YouTube. Yeah. I guess that is what it is. I don't even know. I'm not monetized now. I like just broke 500 subs like last week. Super stoked about it. I thought I would forever be at like 100 subs or whatever I was before that forever. So, yeah, I think I got to get like only a few more thousand watch hours. So if you guys want to stick around for like 999 more hours, I'll be good, or half that because there's two of you. Then I can get monetized. I can sell you things you don't need. Like I can be one of those car commercials, let you know that I'm here to sell you cars, even though you can't drive anywhere right now. That's probably the move, for sure. All right, where? Nothing's coming up. Hear dogs barking in the background. Got some sick neighbors. There's two dogs that get in fights in front of my apartment. I'm on the first floor, and they always almost at the same time every day cross paths. And I wish the owners would just be like on opposite sides of the street, but they just sit and like dog argue for like 20 minutes. So if you're barking for the next 20 minutes, I'm really sorry. What do I want to draw right now? I can't. This is the worst. I'm going to live stream my sketching, and I don't know what to draw. I can do like a weird melty skull. Yeah, I could do that. Austin, you'd be down with this. A sick melty skull. It's like your vibe. All right. So I draw really rough, and I draw in red, so I don't even know if any of the lines I'm drawing are showing up yet. But we'll see. Might use a reference. Hang on, I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab it. I have like this little skull. It's just at arm's reach. Yeah, these things here are my go-to drawing references. Yeah, so I use these a lot. These weird little like head references, these skulls. The lighting, this looks sick right now. The purple and the blue light. Damn, I never thought to like light my stuff like that. Like in real life, I should do that. That's true. Yeah, that could be some sick flash. Let me maybe pull up some some references on that. So I got the skull. I'm gonna draw a weird melty skull. I actually have like a really old one that I've turned into like grip tape and like skateboard graphics on like board pusher and stuff. I think I have some like stuff on Society 6 on there too with it. But I used to draw these weird melty things as well. So awesome. When I found your channel, I was like, this kid gets it. He knows what's up. But I have these older like weird melty skull illustrations from forever ago. Site and then pull it up. It's a whole thing. I'm gonna draw while it's loading. It's taking forever. Sorry. Come on. All right. Longest passwords ever. All right, so I got the skull, like the general structure of how I draw skulls when I'm having like the big bulging eyeball and the meltiness. The main thing is you want to have, in your structure of the skull, you want to have like the general forms, like the bridge of the nose. This is obviously super exaggerated because it's not how skulls look with these giant bulging eyeballs. But if you need like a good reference, this is like a weird thing I found at a Goodwill. It's like a weird medical model for kids. And it was like $1 and it freaked me out a lot because you pull it apart and there's like a brain in there and stuff. But there's this little section here that's clear and it shows you how the skull would actually sit inside the like inside the flesh there, and it kind of gives you like a good depiction of what you should be doing. But it's like a weird rubbery thing, so it's hard to like put it back on and in place. But it shows you basically the skull side next to the flesh side, and you kind of see how things sit in the eye socket and stuff. It's weird. It's a weird thing to have. I freak myself out when I have it in my bedroom when I come home. Like, why do I have this like on my desk? It's super weird looking. All right. So back to the skull. We're going to draw this little like support bridge. I actually curve mine down like this, and I bring this in a little bit tighter and usually go like right underneath the eye socket. The other side, I like kind of mimic the idea of the eye socket and then cut the jaw inward down to the teeth like that. It's a weird one, but it is a cool model for sure. I have I like found it with one of my friends. I live pretty close to Salem, Massachusetts, which I'm sure you guys all know is like a white girl spooky capital of the planet. And we were walking around, and I like went into a store with them. They like show me like their favorite Goodwill spot, and I saw it. And I was like, I need this in my life. So I grabbed it, and it's like super weird and freaks me out a little bit. All right, so for the teeth, you could make the teeth more realistic, but ain't nobody got time for that. So I'm going to draw some weird clunky teeth, usually like pretty big, and then I'll like realize those are too big, and I'll go back and forth for 20 minutes arguing with myself about it. And I usually end up doing something completely different. So the skull, I'm going to like wrap it around. If you look at this skull, you can see that it actually would wrap like underneath here, and you have this little like spiky edge, but because it's going to be a melty boy, I don't really need to worry about that. I also draw this top part of the jaw bone, which is a very traditional styled like tattoo flash interpretation of the jawbone, and then you usually draw it down here with the teeth, and you have like this little loop, and you draw the line straight across, and you usually do this weird like butt chin thing, and then you kind of draw your lines like that. And that's kind of how you do it. And you usually have the eye sockets pretty deep, and they're not circles or ovals. But we're going to make up anatomy because Why not? So on the actual skull on this model, you can kind of see there's like a little section here for the jawbone that connects. There's like a hole there. And if you look inside, you can kind of see. That's why this model's sick. This is like a really cheap one from Amazon. But the cool thing about this is you actually can see where like the eyeballs themselves, how they sit on the inside of the skull, like the parts that go in connecting to the brain. And it actually really helps to use objects like this to do proper studies and draw more realistic things. But we're drawing something that's fictional and it's made up and it has very stylized features. All right, hang on. This finally loaded too. Let me find the weird melty thing real quick. So I have like a super old Society 6 and I like just started putting work up there again because I don't like dealing with the whole print stuff anymore. I used to, but now I can't stand it. So like I used to like use it all the time. Like, yeah, Society 6, Redbubble. I make more money on Redbubble having stuff sit though. So if you're looking to like offload art that doesn't sell normally and you're trying to like make money with art, if that's what you're looking to do, you can actually just like offload old designs or like sitting graphics on those, and sometimes they sell and sometimes they don't. But it's better than sitting on a hard drive. I always tell people that. I'm like, if it's just sitting on a hard drive and you can't do anything with it, like why not try to? All right, here's the weird melty skull guy. I think it'll let me throw it in the chat here. Let's see. Where's that chat window going? There it is. Boom. There's a link there. I don't know if it'll like open or work, but that's like the sort of aesthetic I used to draw a lot like. And this is a watercolor illustration on watercolor paper. So I draw these weird skulls and like these weird melty drips. And I don't know, I really liked them. But Austin, like when I first found your channel, I immediately thought to like back when I drew a bunch of stuff like that. I figure you might appreciate the weird melty skull guys. All right, so we got like the general shape of the skull down. For the teeth, I do like this older like rounded style I used to do, where it was just like really bubbly, but we wanted to look a little bit more good, I guess, and not how I used to do things. So it's gonna be drippy. I might make the top like a candle, I'm thinking. So we'll draw like a little dent, and then the other side will have like some of the melted wax. We'll draw the like wick, and we'll draw like pretty light flame. I didn't give myself enough room because we're just winging the design. So normally I obviously would have put this more centered down if I knew I was going to add flames to it. But I don't do things prepared. So we're going to just draw whatever. And I drew flames like the last live stream, but flames are fun to draw. So like get off my case. All right. We're going to do some weird little things here. And we're just going to make up the fire, like, and make it look presentable somehow. And we're going to draw a little melted section. We're going to draw some wax coming down on the bridge here. Yeah, old Santa Cruz stuff is a huge inspiration of mine for sure. I still love Santa Cruz stuff. I collect a lot of Santa Cruz skateboard graphics. All the Jim Phillips stuff from back in the day. Like even when I was really young, seeing those older graphics still inspires me to this day. And there's actually a few local artists here in Massachusetts that do some Santa Cruz graphics now, and their stuff is awesome. One of them actually worked at Converse, but we never like crossed paths because I worked at the HQ. The building's huge, but I forget his Instagram name, and I wish I remembered it. His stuff's awesome, and I think he's based out of Salem as well. But I don't like live in Salem or like Bayshore area. I'm looking to maybe move there just because my stuff fits in a little bit better with the general vibe and aesthetic year round versus just in the Halloween season, but we'll see. I'll live in an area of Boston called Jamaica Plain, and it's changed a lot. It used to be like an affordable place and kind of cool, and now it's really lame and full of software developers that aren't fun. There are some cool software developers, but most of them aren't fun. And it's like kids on leashes and stuff. It's weird. Where it used to be like an area people didn't want to live in. Now there's kids on leashes acting wild out there. All right, so we got like a couple of the drips figured out on this. It's not too bad. It's looking a little bit better. And I'm not liking this eye here, so it's looking a little weird. Maybe I'll take the eye out. Do some wax on this. And I'm gonna fill it with like one of these red markers. So some of the Converse work I did is already out. Actually, it's on the website, but I worked in the sneaker graphics department. So for like the sneaker graphics, there's some stuff now creation at first, which is more technology based, and then I worked in the graphics department after that on a separate contract. And on that contract, I worked a lot with the women's team and then the footwear graphics team. So all the stuff that's recently been released are footwear graphics, and then a few other like men's graphics, which might be released for Kohl's later this year. Yeah, the Silicon Valley yuppies, they're coming here for sure. We all thought it was like a joke at first, but like a lot of people that I know that are from here, like from Boston area or like Mass in general or Boston Greater, are all leaving because they can't afford it. Like one of my closest uncles actually used to live in JP, like down the street from me. And he actually ended up having to like close his studio down and move because the developer bought the building he was in, and the owner of the building ended up selling it to this developer, and he had to like uproot his whole life and stuff and move, which sucks. But he seems happy. He's doing cool stuff. He's just like a sound engineer, so does some cool things. But it is wild to see the city's changed so much. I know everyone says that about wherever they live, but yeah, I notice a lot. My friends get annoyed that aren't from here, that are like college transplants. I always talk about how Boston used to be so different, and they're like, we know it used to be so different because it's all you say anytime we go anywhere. But JP, I've noticed it a lot more so lately. I remember it was kind of like crusty here for a long time. It was like hippies, and then there was a lot of like kind of house shows and punk stuff. Not as much as Alston or anything, but JP was like the even cheaper version of Alston for a long time, and then it's changed so much over the last 5 years alone. Oof, this marker sounds terrible. I don't even want to listen to it. I have my headphones on. I'm going to switch to another marker. I think I have like a larger red one in here. That might sound less terrible. Oh, there's a gold. Let's try that. And there's like a black one. Probably need that after. Alright, so I'm going to switch maybe to this gold one. It doesn't look terrible. It's a lot better than the red. The red's just like almost dead, and it's a much smaller marker. I think that's it. Oh wait, there might be a large red one in here after all. Nope. Oh, this is a relic though. I'll show you this. This is a Joy Pimper marker. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the brand. I'm just realizing the screen is the screen upside down? No, it's not upside down. Okay. I thought the screen was upside down. I was like, have I been drawn upside down this whole time? These were like an older paint marker that replaced the old Deco paint markers. And they were around for a little while by this company, Joystick. It's an old Art Primo relic for any like you graffiti heads. But it's really funny because these were like the worst marker I personally had ever used. But I still have one because I hate it that much and I don't use it. It's probably like a solid chunk of paint in this. I'm pretty sure it's like dried up. And it's like the rattle ball and like a giant chunk of oil-based paint, which is terrible. But it's funny that I found it because I didn't think these still existed in the world. All right, so we're going to use the gold it looks like, because the red is not working out. It's just too much to cover. So I'm just gonna fill in pretty rough. And I'm just gonna grab another piece of paper too, as I'm realizing this. And I'm gonna put it like underneath the page so it doesn't bleed out, because this paper is not super thin. You can see there's a lot of bleed through already because I'm using an oil-based marker, but that's okay, because I actually love when I get weird bleed through in my sketchbook. It usually gives me weird ideas to draw stuff over the shapes. And when you're doing stuff with paint markers like this, some of them cover a lot better than others. With the red one, I could still, even though I drew in red pencil, I could still see some of it, which you might not see on camera anyway. But with the gold, it completely covers everything. So I'm actually going to have to like draw some shapes around the lines that I want to make, because I don't want to accidentally mess it up and make it so I can't see it. Smooth on there, and it gives a lot of liquid. It tears the paper up a little bit faster than these oil-based tend to do for me, so that's why I just use these instead in this sketchbook. Yeah, the pop punk music. Sorry, I've been seeing that now. It's funny. There's that YouTuber that makes those like parody like pop punk videos, like the defend pop punk videos. I can't remember his name, but they're absolutely hilarious. I'll have to find I'll find them like later. Maybe post them up someplace. I'm on Twitter now too, which I don't use because I don't think people care every time I like take a dump or something. So I never understood Twitter, but everyone's like, you gotta get on Twitter. I'm like, all right, I'm on Twitter. Now what? But maybe that's what I'll do, is I'll just post funny like old YouTube videos that make me laugh on there. It's a good use for it. All right, so I'm starting to lose some of the shapes a little bit, but that's fine. I kind of know what it's supposed to look like. So I'm just going to draw some of these lines down here. And I'm sorry for all the noise you might be able to hear of my neighbors and stuff. I live on the first floor. Yeah, I'll keep everyone updated what I have for lunch. All right, so the teeth, I'm going to actually just draw like little circles around and keep some hollow space, so when I go over the black, I can see it a little bit better. And I'm not sure how well the black is going to cover the gold. Sometimes with metallic paint markers, you can have some issues with coverage, even though it's the same paint. Gold and metallics in general, for even with spray paint, have a hard time having coverage. And that's mainly because the metallic pigments themselves take a lot to mask out, even with black. So that's like why bitumen paint exists and covers all paint exist, to cover those type of hard to cover colors, like blacks and even red sometimes. I know I picked the worst colors to do this with, but red dyes and red oil based stuff is so bad to try to cover with any other medium that isn't super opaque or like block through, if that makes sense. All right, so we got most of the color spots filled in enough. Before I start adding black, I'm going to use the black marker now to outline just some key areas, and I'll keep going back and forth and cutting back with the gold, because the gold, I believe, will cover the black once it's dry. So like if I do like a black line, let that dry for a few minutes, and we'll do a test. And hopefully it doesn't like gunk up the marker too much. The gold dries really fast though. It's like almost instant. That's another reason I like these. Shake the markers up. All right. So we're going to start with some of the key areas. Give those dudes some real eyeballs so he can stare at me the whole time. There we go. Yeah, that black cover's nice on the gold, actually. There's a little bit of like shine bleed through you might be able to see. That's fine. We'll just do like another pass. Or I'll even cut over the black with the gold. And if you cut over black when it's properly dried with the gold, or like especially the chrome markers, it actually shines better having a flat black base, or like not a flat black, sorry, like a high gloss black base. So when you see some of the toy stuff I've done with the super shiny metallics, it's a gloss black base underneath with chrome spray painted on, or sprayed airbrushed on top of it. That's how I get that effect. And you can do the same thing sometimes with paper, but this is super absorbent, so it might not actually show through in the same way because a lot of the shine is like absorbed into the paper. I'm just going to fill the nose with black. And then once this is dry as well, the gel pen does work on these sometimes pretty well because it just sits on the paint better than the paper and it doesn't soak in. So certain tools that I typically draw with, I'll use over other ones with this type of paper just because the paper reacts a little weird. And it's not like special paper or anything. It's just the tooth and nature of like a textured soft paper. Some weird lumpiness. And the flames too are going to look weird because they're on, like, they're going to have to sit on top of this gold. I wasn't thinking clearly about that as a detail, but something to like be aware of. That's like another reason, like when I'm sketching, and I'm winging it, I'll make decisions on the fly to adapt to the problems I'm creating for myself by not being prepared. But sometimes that's how I discover like my new favorite technique for that week or whatever. That's how I do that. Is like, oh, how do you think to do that? I'm like, oh, I made a lot of mistakes. And then they just kind of looked cool. You know, the Bob Ross happy accidents. It's like half of the things of mine that I've ever been successful are literally those mistakes. Oh, and I made another big mistake right there. If you just see that huge bleed out. Damn it. I'm like a little short on paper towel products. So these markers, when they're like new and fresh like this, they can pool up a lot of ink on the nib there, and then you'll get this weird just giant puddle out of nowhere even if you don't press that on the nib. I haven't experienced this with a lot of marker brands, but the Sharpie oil-based ones, for some reason, this happens kind of all the time, and it sucks because it's a lot of ink. I'm going to try to grab something really quick and see if I can kind of knock this down. I got like an old rag somewhere. Hang on. I'll be right back. One sec. Sorry, guys. Okay, so let's see. Got that. And we're back. All right. Sorry about that. So I had to go grab one of these tissues. That's what they're called. Because the black spilled everywhere. But it's okay. Once it dries, we might be able to actually use, like I said before, the gold. You will see like a color difference, but it's not. It's whatever. Not too big a deal. And then the marker itself has a lot of black ink left over on there. All right, we're back. Yeah, so still a lot of black coming out, and it's like bleeding a lot. So usually I'll like take my time a bit more when I see it doing that. It's usually just the ink because it's so thin with the solvent. I think that's why it does that. I don't know. Yeah, things are always getting tense at Wolf Pit Studios. If it's not tense, I don't like it. If I'm not constantly stressed out, it's not real. All right, let's see. Got the marker there. Sweet. Weird drip here. There's another one there. I don't know what that noise was. That's weird. Oh, I think someone's listening to music. Okay. All right, so the teeth, let's try those in there real quick, nice and bad. Yeah, those look terrible. Not too bad. No, they're pretty bad. That's all right, though. Just gonna make it look like he's got weird gums instead of teeth. Again, ridiculous. I'm gonna go get some gloves because I'm getting pissed off. All right, 1 sec. Okay, I'm back with gloves because I'm sick of making a mess. All right, this is looking weird. Now I'm like stepped away from it for a sec. I don't know. This might not be that good. I might have doubts about this one. Yeah, the bleed is crazy on here. It's already on my hand again on the glove. It's a little shiny spot. It does bleed like nuts. So it's something to be aware of with these. It doesn't take a lot of pressure. Just the ink itself inside, or the paint, is so thin that it feels like it doesn't feel like a paint. It does feel like an actual ink, like a xylene or like an alcohol based ink, but it's technically a paint, if that makes sense. But it flows not like a paint, if that makes sense. It's like enamel almost inside there, but it's not enamel. They say it's not enamel, but it feels like really watered down, or not watered down, but thinned out and reduced enamel once it like starts flowing. All right, I'm going back with the gold, and the gold actually covers the black quite nicely, so I'm not too worried about this giant puddle here. I'm just going to take my time because it will start to blend with the solvent. So we'll just let it sit for a second, and then I'll scribble some off, and then usually I go over areas like that are mistakes 3 or 4 times to get the gold the right color. But we'll just sculpt in those lines and hope for the best. Now, there's still a lot of solvent left over from before, so it's taking a bit. Thanks, dude. Having fun drawing some melty skulls. The stream's looking better, right? You saw the other two, but I found a way to use my iPhone as my webcam with a bunch of apps and findangling of stuff. But yeah, looking pretty good. Pretty pumped on it. Now the gold's starting to bleed out heavy, which is fine. We can go back again, over, back and forth, cutting it out. We can cover some of this red. Slowly making it legit. So tomorrow I'm trying to figure out the first ever Twitch stream, because everyone's like, go on Twitch, it's better. And I'm like, I don't believe you. So I'm going to try it out, and I'm going to see if it's actually better or not for doing this type of stuff. I guess it's like more interactive where people can harass me more while I draw, which I'm down with that. I'm down with the harassment while I'm drawing. So I got to look into it though and see logistically if I can figure it out, because even though I work in sort of that's what I thought. I'm like, it's like the same thing, except like, YouTube is forever, and I feel like Twitch streams are not forever. So that would be cool to explore, or even just like to meet other artists that like do live stream stuff. I'd be into that. I'm definitely fascinated by the whole idea of drawing in front of people. I feel weird about it, but at the same time, like, it's kind of fun. It's like I'm doing like a drink draw or something, but digitally. And I can eat pizza by myself and not share it. I would, though, if you were here. I promise. All right, got the gold roughly filled in there. I actually like how this looks with all like the mess and stuff. It's kind of fun. That's a good call, actually. That's actually a good way to do like multi streams of content. I didn't even think about that. All right, where is... So I'd like rearrange my room so I could set up all these things, and now I can't find any of the tools I commonly use. So I gotta like, I'll be right back. I gotta go grab one other thing real fast. Take me like a second. Okay, sorry, I had to go grab some China markers that are in my desk in the corner. So this is what I use to shade on textured paper typically. I either use a really, really fine charcoal or like really dark black pencil. And the ones that I usually use are the Stabilo China marker, these Conte Paris. That's not, I didn't say that right for sure, but this guy, if you can read that. These are awesome, but they're like a charcoal, so they are also not awesome at the same time. They do some terrible things to me and my artwork. The Sharpie Peel Off China marker, classic. Any graffiti kid knows these and like Mean Streaks. It's another like Sharpie product, I believe. I grew up on those, and those are like my favorites. And then there's also the Faber Castell watercolor black pencil. These are super dark. I like these a lot. But I'll usually do a few like test swatches, but because the lighting's weird with like the purples and all that, I usually just like do a little side test to see what I like. So the Stabilo can be sharpened to a nice point. These guys can too, but they break faster and they're softer, so they give it like more texture. So I usually start with one or the other. I'm gonna not use the charcoal-y pencil or watercolor pencil right now because I just don't feel like dealing with it not working the way I want it to work. Just have this dude hold this for me. I'll be back for it. Okay, so usually I'll start in, and because there's the paint on there, it's going to react a little differently, but it is a little bit smoother than it typically would be. So I start pretty soft and then start to add pressure towards the areas I want the shadow to start. And then I'll let up the pressure, and I'll actually do like circular motions like going downward. And it gets a little sticky because it is like a wax or like an oily wax. And it does start to stick a little bit. And if that happens, just like let it up and rest it for a second because it's the friction. And this is another way too, if you have something that's not covering super well, a blocking out medium like this, where it's gonna sit on top of the surface well without any shine through, like a heavy wax, works super well. So I use these a lot. And again, this kind of comes from when I first started doing tattoo flash, being bedridden at the time, and not being able to walk or anything. That's why I started using these on textured paper, watercolor paper, because I couldn't use watercolor. So that's something that people identify with my style a bit, and it's literally just because of that one experience and how much I was drawing back then. But it's okay. Like, I actually still really enjoy the look of it, and I completely discovered that look on accident and like a terrible time in my life. But it's a useful tool for so many things. I use China markers all the time. I believe I have like another like weird illustration video on YouTube. It's like a weird skull like this as well. It's like a full body skeleton thing. That one's pretty rad. And I use China markers in that and an airbrush and like a bunch of weird mixed media, lowbrow, definitely lowbrow accessible materials. The airbrushes are a bit expensive when you first start getting into airbrushing. But once you have the stuff, it's like one of those tools you just use forever. And I love using airbrushes in my sketchbook. And people are always like, why do you do that? I'm like, how do you do that? I'm like, I just turn it on and spray an airbrush in my sketchbook. It's not that big a deal. But I do recommend trying to like experiment with weird things in your sketchbooks all the time, because it's like a good way to practice before you use expensive paper. But it also, you might find something you never thought would be a cool thing that you want to incorporate in your drawing or just your art in general. All right, so this candle is going to get pretty dark, so I actually might grab the black marker again and cut out a section and then shade in the rest, because I don't want to deal with trying to color in that whole area, like the waxiness. It might get a little frustrating trying to do that, so I'm just going to take my time, and I'm just going to block out a shape, and that's supposed to be lit, so we'll keep some light around that, and we'll just let it dry. It takes a little while to dry when it's sitting on top of other paint. All right, we'll splat that in. Looks pretty good. You can actually hit this while it's wet. It's just going to react a little differently. So I try to just let it sit for a bit. This is a water soluble tool as well, so that's something to be aware of if you are using watercolor paper. This one in particular is water soluble. This one I don't believe is intended to be water soluble, but I'm sure if you worked at it enough, it'll start to like shift and bleed and whatnot. What happened to his face? Oop. Yeah. Teeth are fixed. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. It's like, what's going on there? This dude's supposed to be holding this. All right. Back to the drawing. Yeah, so like if you're using different materials, understand that they might have weird reactions with other materials. That just kind of comes with learning mixed media stuff and using multiple materials to create effects. I run into stuff all the time where I'll start something that's really abstracted from another style that I'm used to doing, and I'll just be messing around, and all of a sudden I'll either discover something or I'll completely ruin a piece, or think I've ruined a piece because there's a weird reaction I wasn't intending to happen. So it can be frustrating, or it can be one of the greatest discoveries you're going to make creatively in that time. But yeah, it's something to be aware of. I do make mistakes all the time. I do have things mess up all the time. But I'm going to actually grab some drawings maybe in a little bit and show you guys some things that were completely just messing around and on accident, and what I realized I kind of like. But they're away in the other room. and these are starting to wear down a little bit on the nib, so I could sharpen it back to a point, but I like how rough it's starting to look now. So, and this paint is about dry. It's a little bit shinier as well because it's sitting on top of the gold like I was talking about before. So that's something to be aware of, whereas the marker might be a little matte. So what you can do is you actually can go over really softly on top of the paint itself with the China marker, and that will actually dull it down a little bit. You'll still have some glare leak through, but it looks pretty cool. Yeah, I thought about doing Discord, but I don't really understand what they are. You know, like I get the principle of what it is and what it does, but I haven't really looked enough into it to know how I could utilize it like efficiently yet. So once I do some more research and I'm, join the century and understand it, I'm sure I'll find a way to use it. All right, so this looks pretty good, but the eyes now look weird because they're super bright. And I think the red would be a little too harsh. So I have this blue alcohol-based marker that I was doing the warm-up tags with. Yeah. So I might try to do that on the inside, but I got to be careful because this alcohol-based marker, I believe, I'll do a risky test. Oh, no, actually it doesn't. I thought it would have pulled up some of the black, but it looks like it does not. So at least on this test sheet. Yeah, surprisingly it doesn't. Okay, that's cool. It's like silk dye. That's another thing people have recommended to me in the past, like other tattoo flash artists, and it looks amazing. But essentially, it doesn't move with alcohol-based markers. So you can really scribble and do stuff over it, and it doesn't go anywhere. Apparently, I haven't tried it out in person myself because what is silk dye? Like, where do you even find that? But it basically creates a surface that doesn't get reactive to alcohol-based markers. So I gotta figure that stuff out. And it sounds like it would solve all of my problems that I used to have, but now I've just moved away from those materials that were causing me problems like that. So who knows? Maybe I'll get back into doing some other styles that I put off for a while. All right, we're gonna make this kind of like a weird dark glow. It's looking pretty good. I'm having fun with this one. We're gonna switch back to the other China marker, the Sharpie one, which leaves a much larger texture. If you guys can see that on the paper there. So we have the Stabilo, which is a very tight and dark one. Hey, we just got a subscriber on there, I guess. That's awesome. So yeah, that's like a really dark black line, and you can get like pretty textured stuff on there. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, the lights, man, I'm obsessed with that. The purple, blue. And we have more colored lights. I'm gonna get like 40 colored lights next stream. You can try it out. So yeah, I'm just gonna go back over these areas, and then I'm just gonna kind of polish in, not even polish, rough up these slightly softer edges. And with these type of China markers, you can actually get them like really, really rough by taking a rough grit sandpaper. So what you do is like you either cut the edge off and bring this down a bit more, and then you take a really coarse sandpaper and you like stab it on there, and it creates a really rough surface to start with, and you just stab the sandpaper and then draw and stab the sandpaper again and then draw. It's like a thing, but it does really cool effects. So I think that might be a cool live stream to do in the future if you guys want to see that, where I actually just experiment with materials, because that's what I do creatively. Yeah, my lights are looking very aesthetic right now. Not pretty aesthetic, very aesthetic. The purple blue, it's got like a 80s arcade vibe, but still feels kind of horror movie-ish. I was thinking about doing like the red green, but I don't want it to feel too Christmas in here. But yeah, if anyone has light color combos you think I should try, I will try them out because these are sick. I got these two little lights before, whereas I was using an old LED sign I made like in a past video you guys have seen I had all the lights off because I wasn't drawing and I wouldn't be able to see otherwise. I was using my iPad last time, but now that I'm drawing, I need regular lights that are like able to show up on screen. It's still kind of dark in here for me, but it looks good on camera. And I'm using my iPro, which is my iPhone instead of my GoPro. And the low light's a little bit better actually on the iPhone comparatively to the GoPro. And I need a capture card to use the GoPro, so I can't afford that or even find one right now because everyone's started streaming. Okay, so this is looking like something. I don't know if it's good, but it looks like something for sure. I gotta find my runaway gel pen. There it is. So this gel pen is the one that I was talking about before that I love. This thing's pretty sick actually. So it covers pretty much everything. Like that's a little hard to see probably for you guys on camera, so I'm gonna try to like color in an area. Come on. Actually, you know what? This is a perfect test. This black glove. Forgot about that. Boom. It's pretty good, right? Pretty solid on there. That's going to be what I use to fill in some highlight areas. And if you're too quick with it, you get like the double line with the hollow. And if you're slower with it, you get like a nice thick, heavy line. But now this is going to be super distracting on this glove, so you guys are going to have to deal with that. Yeah, the gel pen, though, it looks really nice. I'm going to do little highlights in the eye. I'm going to start with little circles in the corner. We'll let that sit. Now, this gel pen will react with the Stabilo China marker, so something to be aware of. If you're getting super close to an area you're going to throw a highlight, you might notice it more. But on the paint marker itself, if you get it on just that, it looks very nice because the paint creates a flat surface for it to sit on top of instead of soaking into the paper like it was doing before when we had just the water-based black ink. So because this is technically a paint, even though it's really thin like an alcohol-based ink, it will sit on top of the paint, even the gold. So people that are into doing like graffiti styled like illustrations and like black book stuff, everyone always wonders how you get those nice crisp white highlights over paint markers. This gel pen here, this is a Uniball Signo. I'm not sponsored by any of these products anyway. I just generally use these all the time. I wish I was sponsored by them because I go through way too many of them. I buy them like at 10 at a time because I draw with them so much. So you can actually get over some of the China marker there. It just gets a little darker and you have to clean the nib off. I'm sorry if these noises are super annoying. But that's basically what you do is you just do that and you can actually create really nice highlight sections. Or you can get a super opaque white paint marker and go over it like 20 times and you'll get the same effect, or use a brush on gel ink, which I have not found yet, but apparently they do exist where you can get the ink that's in here like in a cup and use that, which is, I want to find that. So if anyone knows what that stuff is actually called or like where you get it, let me know, because I've only known it to be in these little pen forms because it dries so fast. All right, looking pretty good there. Accentuate some of the highlights. Back on the eyeball. Now on the red that's underneath, that's still showing through, when you go over it with the gel pen, it will make it like a light pink, which I'm okay with too. I think that's kind of cool actually. I like that effect. And then if you got to cut something out, you can see we can cut out the wick now pretty well and distinguish it from the other line work. So that's kind of cool. And that's how you take something that looks very basic and generic and can really up the level of perceived quality. Even though it's a really fast kind of not planned out sketch, it looks a little bit more complete. And it's kind of cool. It's fun. Usually when I do stuff like this, I actually learn quite a bit about process on what I can do for actual finished pieces or what I would consider like a finalized piece. And that's kind of nice actually. You can mess around and use the sketchbook how it's intended to be used as a place to learn and explore ideas, not necessarily create finished work. And again, I have nothing against anyone that does that. I'm baffled that that's even possible for people to do. But my sketchbooks are just the dumping place and where I experiment. But yeah, so it's kind of the skull right there. I don't know what else I could add to it. I think it's kind of okay as is. It's getting a little late. We've been streaming now on almost exactly 2 hours. So thank you guys for sticking around. I am trying to do my first Twitch stream ever tomorrow, and I have no idea what to expect, so I got to do a bunch of research on that. But that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you guys for joining the stream and all like the fun words and conversation. We had a lot of people come in and out throughout, so that's awesome. And yeah, I'm getting excited about the stream stuff. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or anything, like, you can hit me up on social media. Most of you do that anyway. Or leave them in the comment section, because I am going to post this video to YouTube itself. All right. And yeah, thanks again. Peace out. Wolfbits out.